Hello and welcome to the Calling All Heroes Comics podcast. This is the very first time that we're not only recording the podcast for an audio release, but we're also going to videotape it. We're here at Calling All Heroes Comics, hence the name, Calling All Heroes Comics Podcast. I'm George. I'm joined by Gary.
Hello.
And Wolz.
Hey.
And today, you may have noticed we got a little bit of a Halloween theme going on here. You know. Today is the Halloween Comic Fest. Thousands and thousands of comic stores all over the country are participating. We're giving away, I have probably around 12 or 1,500 comics to give away today.
Nice.
And then, of course, there's some other specials and prizes. We're having a costume contest that's sponsored by Diamond. Diamond's doing a thing, they're calling it the world's greatest costume contest, and they're going to give away $250 worth of stuff. Anything you want that Diamond carries or deals with. So
wow.
That's pretty cool.
That's nice.
But yeah, so what's on everybody's mind this week?
Halloween?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
That was a nice segue, Gary. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Comic books, and I never thought about it before, but comic books and Halloween, I mean, how much cooler is that?
Yeah.
It isn't,
You know,
it
we're
isn't
all-
any cooler.
I know Wolz and I are huge monster fans, so,
Absolutely.
you know, we got Hellboy, we got Venom, you know, which is a monster.
For sure.
You know, it may not be a monster movie, but, you know, a lot of comic book villains, you know, are monsters.
Yeah.
If the Joker did a movie, he starred in it, it'd be a monster movie.
Yeah.
It'd be a horror film, correct?
If it's
Absolutely.
good, it would be.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah, if they did it right. Yeah.
I mean, even if you look at the cartoon of the Killing Joke cartoon, I mean, that's kind of, I don't know if you guys saw the animated cartoon.
No, I've
but
heard about it.
Yeah,
Is it,
I've heard as well.
Is it realistic, or is it more like the Batman Adventures?
It's very much like the animated series, yeah.
Okay.
But it does, I mean, it's kind of creepy. I wasn't a huge fan. They added a lot of stuff in there to make it a 2 hour or an hour and a half movie.
Right.
But
Fleshed
yeah,
it out, so to speak.
yeah. I mean, it's definitely, you know, I would call the Joker a monster in that movie for sure. So
Well, I have no greater love than this season in Monsters. I mean, that was my whole connection to comic books. I mean,
Yeah.
I've branched off into superheroes. I like superhero comics, but my first thing was the reprint monster books.
Mhm.
You know, the Kirby, Ditko, whomever was doing things at the time, Don Heck, and those stories that were reprinted in the '70s. I love that stuff, and that was my initiation to the comic world. And they always have a nice landing spot in my heart.
you know, I've heard a lot of times that like all the animators for Warner Brothers and MGM, they all came from Disney for the most part. And I think there's maybe an analogy there in comics that the superhero comic artists, that a lot of them came from the monster stuff.
Yeah.
The monster stuff predated that.
Yeah.
Did you guys both get into the monster comics first and then go to superheroes, or maybe we were into some superhero stuff and then went backwards? Like when you hear a band you really like and want to go backwards to hear what they did earlier.
Well, obviously my favorite character is the Hulk, and he is a monster.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, if you look at the early Kirby, first, six issues, Ditko Kirby,
Mhm.
he looks like Frankenstein.
Yeah.
If you look at Boris Karloff or
Yeah.
Glenn Strange or any of the original ones and stuff, and you look at Kirby's original Hulk, he looks like Frankenstein. The big brow.
Yeah.
You know, he was even gray.
Yeah, the first
day,
issue.
So
yeah.
so even though Boris Karloff and those guys were green, you know, they made him they made him green stuff, and they look good in black and white.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's when you see the stills years later on, and you see him, he actually has green makeup on,
Yeah.
which is the same as Herman Munster.
Yeah, the monsters. Yeah, they're
When
wild
you
to
see
see
him
too.
when you see him, in color, you're like, whoa, that's not what I was expecting.
Right.
Yeah.
But they are black, it's black and white, so henceforth, the Gray Hulk.
Cool.
So it's always been monsters. For
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, I'd have to say the same thing. Now, my Uncle Lefty, who initiated me into the comic world, used to give me a plethora. He liked some superhero stuff, but he was mostly into the horror titles. And at that time, like Swamp Thing was coming out, and Tomb of Dracula, Werewolf by Night, those are the comics, along with the reprint books, like the monster reprint books. Those are the kind of books that he would give to me. And I don't know. It's something about Jack Kirby. That's the first time I saw those books, and I looked at like a story a monster story that he did. I can't really explain it. I love it. I mean, I just was immediately drawn to it.
Yeah.
I had no objection to it. It didn't, the thick fingers, the dark, the heavy lines, how he was so good at drawing characters, but they all had the Kirby touch. Every one, the people in the crowd and the creatures, monsters, and superheroes, they all looked like they belonged to that universe, and I love that. I mean,
Can I say it only adds to the mythos of your comic collecting that you were introduced by someone known as Uncle Lefty?
Uncle Lefty. Uncle Lefty was super cool.
Well, it being Halloween, do you guys have any personal favorite monster stories? Any you know, whether it's a book, a comic book, of course, or a graphic novel, or a trade, or a book, a novel, anything. What's some of your favorite stuff?
Well, obviously, one of the last things that we talked about was the Comic-Con, Baltimore Comic-Con.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always sending suggestions to them. I've been trying to get Rich Corbin there.
Yeah.
Michael T. Gilbert from Mr. Monster, speaking of monsters.
Yeah.
Guy who hunts and kills monsters. And then they've had John Tottleman, and I would love to, I met both of them back in the day, and Steve Bissett, who did the Alan Moore run, did the majority with Rick Veitch.
Yeah.
A couple other
Yes.
people. But they were the two artists, and one of the only comic books I've ever read in the daytime that actually scared me back when it was going on. I mean, it was pretty creepy. It was like reading.
That's cool.
You know, it was like, you know, Michael and Jason and Freddy, you know, in comic books. I mean, it was that creepy.
Yeah.
That's cool.
American Gothic. And,
Yes.
So I would love to have those guys. I would love for them to show back up at the convention.
Sure.
And,
Sure.
But the Swamp Thing, I would love, and of course Alan Moore,
Yeah.
who I've never. Brian Boland was there a couple years ago. I didn't think I'd ever meet him. Of course, he's got to come over from England.
Yeah.
And Alan Moore is another one that just, it would be so cool
Yeah.
for him to come by, and I can't imagine how many books we'd have for him to sign.
You
Just not the Swamp Thing, but just everything that he's done.
Well,
Right.
The Watchmen,
Yeah.
you know.
But just talking about that real quick, I was doing some organizing, and I found I had a little section where I had signed books, only Swamp Thing books, and I had 10 different creators that have been on the titles.
Wow.
From Len and Bernie, and I mean, just some obscure Brian Boland doing those covers.
Yeah.
Eric Powell doing one of the covers, and was it the 4th installment or yeah. But I looked through them, and I'm looking at them. They're really cool. Charles Vess, you know, Corbin, all these guys. Alan Moore is the one that sticks out. I mean, there's a couple other ones that I like to have, like Tom Yates that's doing the Prince Valiant now in the paper. You know, he did a run on the Saga Swamp Thing. He did like most of the early issues, and I really liked his work. I'd like to have his autograph, but by far having Alan Moore's, like something signed by Alan Moore. And I even cheat. I look on eBay and stuff. I never see anything. I want a Swamp Thing signed by Alan Moore if anybody's out there listening. But,
with Alan Moore, I mean, obviously, if he showed up at the Comic-Con, Baltimore Con, the line's going to be around the block. Is Rich Corbin on that level? Do you think? Or?
To us, he is.
Yeah.
But I mean,
to
like,
the
could you get there to
general
be like Eric Powell, and you maybe just walk right up, and there'd be a lot of people who it's under their radar.
I think so. I mean, obviously, the people that have been around for a long time would know who he is. And it goes to, I think we've discussed this before. I went to the convention, and you're seeing all these books for $3 to $5, and they're books from 25 centers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, 20, 25, you know, nothing major, but, you know, the Marvel team-ups or, you know, some of the old stuff, 2-in-1s, old Daredevil issues. And I asked the guy, I was like, I don't understand. Why are these books? They're in beautiful shape. Why are they $3 to $5? And he said, because they don't sell. And what means to me, nostalgic-wise and stuff, I mean, they weren't the greatest comic books. These aren't stuff that I'm still rereading.
Right.
But they're part of my childhood.
Right.
And his point is the audience has moved on to other things. We've talked about, you know, anime and everything else. People have just moved on.
Mm-hmm.
You know your clientele and what, you know, and sometimes we joke about it. And, of course, it's always joking about it. But things that people read that we don't.
Right.
That are younger, you know, they're not into the old Kirby monster books. They probably don't even know what they are.
Right.
And that's hopefully they do.
It's like why I have kids that come in on the Marvel Milestone or True Believer stuff, and they'll come in and say, "Oh, is this new?"
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, on the Kirby run.
It is to you.
It's fun. It's funny.
Yeah.
It's really funny to think of that. I mean, I'm trying to put myself in their shoes and just knowing how for me it's just carried through my entire life. I mean, since I was 8 years old, and someone to look at that and go, "Wow, is this something new?" It's just like, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's zero wrong with that. But it's just so amusing to me because I'm like, you know, so ingrained with that.
Well, like with your musical background, I'm sure you had people walk in and like, "Hey, the Beatles!" Like it's a new thing to them. I mean,
Yeah.
having all ages coming in the store and stuff.
Well, the Beatles have always been
Source of contention.
Yeah.
well, not so much, but there again, it's you know, to me, what I listen to is just for me.
Yeah.
And of course, with Mr. Walls, he doesn't like per se pop music, and you don't get much better pop music than the Beatles.
Right.
But you got to be objective, and that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
Clarity. I respect the genius and legend of the Beatles. It's not something I listen to
It's
on a
not your
regular
jam,
basis.
and
It's not my jam, you
and
know.
that's cool.
But I want to make it for the record. I know I appreciate the greatness, Especially, I'll tell you one, just make it quick. Ringo. Ringo's always overlooked, I think. Ringo absolutely is one of the best drummers that have ever picked up sticks. And everything he did made sense. It didn't have to be flamboyant. Everything he did made sense. When I listen to the Beatles, I listen more to him now than anything because he makes sense.
There was an interview. You guys might not know this, but I'm a big Genesis fan. Phil Collins was on Jay Leno years and years and years ago, and he was asked about like anybody that was underrated or this and that. And he said Ringo Starr, absolutely the most underrated musician that I know of. He said he does things that most people don't even understand.
Yeah.
And I mean, for him to put him over, you know.
And of course, that's putting him back up to 4th place as opposed to no place in the Beatles.
Right.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
I always had a soft spot for
We're
him.
like
they always
by
do.
George Martin.
Yeah.
Well, maybe 5th place after George Martin.
Yeah, that's terrible.
As being appreciated because he has
Yeah.
he has 3 other people in this band that are legendary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not that he's not that he doesn't get.
Oh, he's iconic. Ringo Starr's iconic.
Yeah.
Because he was successful as a solo artist. He still has his all stars going out.
Yeah.
And he has very talented people out there, Rundgren and stuff, at his side.
Yeah.
Not to mention he produced a child that is equally as talented as him. His son is tremendous.
Really?
Yeah, his son drummed with the Who for a while there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh,
He might still.
yeah. His
Just
voice
in a band
is
where
great.
George Harrison is scraping
Yeah.
and scratching to get 2 songs on the record, Ringo doesn't have a band.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you can't really complain.
And he always sort of did the novelty songs off all the albums.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Oh, his whole life he did a lot of novelty music. But I loved, Don't Come Easy. I love that.
Oh, his
song.
solo stuff?
Yeah, his solos.
Photograph?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That stuff is great.
Yeah. The sheer volume of stuff he had coming out when they broke
Yeah.
up. I think he probably had more coming out than
I
anybody.
think he had the first hit, if I remember correctly.
Was it Photograph?
That might have been.
Yeah. But hey, but back to comics on Halloween time, huh?
See, I do love the Beatles, sort of kind of.
Boy, I
And
was
of course, Monsters Unleashed is a segue to
Oh.
to the old,
Yeah.
to the old Monsters.
Yeah, look at
Which
that.
is coming out now. It's a current,
Monsters Unleashed,
you know.
I hold that up. Lenticular cover.
Yep.
yeah.
I'm glad I got to do that.
I did get a question on Twitter. Actually, a few of them I wanted to run by you guys.
cool.
One of them was just wondering whether it has to do with comics or not. Favorite movies for Halloween time? Favorite stuff, like historically, whether it's now. I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact phrase in question, but it was just over the course of your life. What did you dig when you were young? Is there anything that you go to now?
My favorite films of all time are the Universal Monsters. The original.
Yeah.
Frankenstein,
Yeah.
Bride of Frankenstein, Karloff.
Yeah.
And I know they've done better versions per se, but Bela Lugosi as Dracula. I know they have rubber bats on strings and stuff, but just the whole thing. The original Wolfman is just spectacular.
Yes.
I mean, there again, Bela's in that too. But
Creature.
Let me put it this way: to try to relate to what's going on today, go with the '80s stuff.
Yeah.
Go with
Yeah.
Freddy. Go with Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and then get into. I don't know if they've ever been more sci-fi than horror, but the trilogy of Predator, Terminator, Aliens.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
the first couple Aliens were just spectacular. The first 2 were
Yeah.
spectacular.
Oh,
Sure.
I saw that in the theater.
And
It's
I know
crazy.
they're science fiction, suspense, but to me that's horror.
Oh yeah.
Listen, at the end of that movie, when the steam is all blowing around and she's running through the ship, there isn't anything more terrifying than that.
It's a haunted house in
Yeah.
space. I mean, it's definitely horror.
It's scary.
Yeah.
I was scared. I remember being in the theater going, waiting for that thing to jump out. I'm like going, wow, this is real. I felt tense. I was
Yeah.
like, this is really tense. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that those movies, the 3 of Jason, Michael, and Freddy, still today influence. Not so much the Frankenstein from '31,
Right.
or the stuff from back then, but I think those 3. We have Freddy right up front here.
Yeah.
Scream is just a takeoff of the '80s stuff.
Sure.
Make sense?
Oh yeah, and it all just keeps on going because by the time you get to Saw, and the Jigsaw character, that kind of introduced that whole torture porn kind of thing, along with Hostel and things like that. And I think that there's a direct line from that because when you get into Final Destination, which kind of has that same
Absolutely.
element to it, and
Yeah.
then it just goes on. Yeah, for me, Friday the 13th, where it's always been for me personally.
I can remember the impact on my mind when I saw Halloween in the theater the first time, the original Halloween.
Oh, nice.
I thought I was amazed by it. I'm a Carpenter fan, though.
That's
exactly what I was getting ready to say.
I'm a huge Carpenter fan because I also saw the remake of The Thing in the theater as well.
Wow.
And I thought he captured. I just thought he captured it well, always.
You got the Omen, Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah.
All those are still today. You can still see them. That feel running through today's horror films.
Yeah.
A lot better effects and stuff today.
Yeah.
But the feel of all of them, it's all right there.
And they're struggling. It's like if that feel is sugar, these guys are definitely like Splenda. They're going for it, but they're not quite there.
I'll give a shout out to the whole Evil Dead trilogy too.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of that, and which all goes back to the really obscure film Equinox, but we won't get into that. But that whole thing, because I like it because it's horror, then it turns into fun.
Right.
The Army of Darkness is a great movie for me because it has horror in it, but it has the humor. I like the way it's sort of twisted out.
And that's hard to do. Like when you're trying to mix humor and horror at the same time, most of the time I think it falls flat because you're stepping on one or the other.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it's funny because that movie does sort of like, they do step on each other, but it still comes out good. And I think the new Clay Glue being Bruce Campbell, I think the guy's really talented.
Yeah.
I just always thought he carried himself really well. And the new series, the new Ash vs. Evil Dead that was on, I thought it was great.
I didn't get
I watched it. I thought it was really good. And I got my wife, who was really not into that kind of stuff, sort of like, she sort of, when it got really graphic, she, and she enjoyed the story. She thought it was really cool. So I give a shout out to them too. I'm a Jeepers Creepers guy.
Yeah. Never seen it.
The classics go without saying. I mean,
I'll tell you, when you were talking about the Universal stuff, I'm always a big fan, whether it's wrestling or horror or whatever. I always like it if it's really, really good or really bad. Like I love that stuff. Yeah. And something that kind of fell in between, because I think the tragic backstory was Frankenstein versus the Wolfman, where Bela Lugosi finally played Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I love that movie. It's like an hour and 10 minutes. I think it's pretty tight.
Yeah.
But at that point, he was pretty far gone, and I don't know. I really liked it. I thought it was cool, and to see him in that role, but know that he turned it down. The initial role that was given to Karloff, and always had that animosity about it and everything.
Yeah. And then again, but to see Karloff and his cheeks and everything, how gaunt he was, and to me, that's my favorite image of all movies is Boris Karloff Frankenstein.
Oh, the head.
There is
the head.
I have a life size one in my room.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And it was very expensive, and it's so cool looking.
Yeah. Tom Savini's is really wild. I remember staring at it for like a half an hour when he had him out on display. It was a Pittsburgh Comic Con. I think he had the Creature and he had Frankenstein. He had all
and the Mummy.
Yeah, and I could remember just like looking at him.
I got a picture over there with him, and you can see the tops of the heads.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
right in front of him.
Yeah, oh, that's
like
cool.
bongo drums or something.
Oh man, I was just mesmerized.
Yeah, the image of
mesmerized.
That's terrible.
Phantom of the Opera there, Lon Chaney.
Yeah, wow, senior. Yeah, I mean, but
senior moment.
Exactly. That image right there with his teeth and everything, and his makeup, and it's sort of like whenever I say how timeless The Wizard of Oz is. I hope they never ever remake it because you'll never touch that magic. That's a beautiful film.
Yeah.
You can see the painted landscapes in the back, and even the Frankenstein. You can see almost the, where the winds, with the backgrounds and stuff. It's all painted, just canvas.
Yeah.
But there's something about that, and there again, the Lon Chaney Jr. Being Wolfman.
Yeah.
I mean, the makeup is just
unbelievable. There was something I never could put my finger on it in Phantom of the Opera, but at the end when the townspeople are chasing him, with the pitchforks and everything, and he stops them. And I was watching this documentary that somebody actually pointed out. I think it was Joe Dante, who I believe directed Gremlins, and he said he stopped like he had a bomb or something. And the townspeople are coming running down after him on all sides, and he turns around and holds his fist out like this, and they all recoil and step back. And then after a second, he opens his hand. There's nothing, and he just starts smiling like, "I got you one last time."
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And that's such an awesome moment.
I don't know. I'm speechless because everything about the season and the movies and such. I love all of it. And I grew up loving all that stuff. I mean, I was immediately attracted to it. It wasn't forced on me.
Right.
I just saw. I mean, I saw it, absorbed it. My parents thought it was sort of weird, I guess, a little bit, but they never give me a hard time. I mean, I can remember sitting up and watching Creature Feature with my dad.
Yeah.
And it was cool. And
my dad showed me the original Night of the Living Dead. I was about 10 or 11 years old. and they said Cumberland, Maryland, and I was like, this could be an issue.
Yeah.
This could be a problem.
Yeah.
Because I know John Carpenter's Thing. That's my all-time favorite horror movie. I mean,
That's a great movie. It's fantastic.
and I was surprised at how much it's Rob Bottin or Rob Bottin, but he was the effects. I guess the special effects guy on that movie. And if you watch the Laserdisc or the DVD with the commentary, John Carpenter gives him all the credit. He's like, he kept trying to say, do this stuff, and I was like, no, then he'd do it. Like, he very much gets all the credit for that. If he's not in that mix, that's not the same movie.
Yeah.
But I saw it probably in 1987, which would have made me 10 or 11, and I can remember pausing the VCR to try to collect myself and get ready to go back into it. When that dog splits open, and I was just like,
the scene for me is when they're doing the chest compressions and that the body opens up. I was like, what? And the head crawls away like a little spider.
Oh, it's awesome.
I was like, oh man, that's crazy.
Chest busters from Aliens.
Yeah.
The first time you seen that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what's going on? And this thing just busts out of his stern.
Yeah.
Like, whoa.
And in Aliens, when that girl's in the hive and she's like, please kill me.
Yeah.
I was like, I just remember thinking, man, you must be in bad shape when you're begging somebody to kill you.
Yeah. And of course, one of your favorites, when speaking of monsters, This Man, This Monster.
Oh, yeah.
The Thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You know,
Tragic figure.
You always consider. So it's funny because most of my favorite characters are monsters.
Yeah.
And they would be seeing, you know, if the Thing walked through here right for you, you'd be like, what in the world is that? You know,
Right.
That's a monster.
Yeah.
Inside, he's just a man, and that's what Stan did so well. You know, because I know Jack had a lot of the ideas and a lot of the characters, but without Stan's writing, I mean, just golden.
Well, we'd all sit here and say, oh, if the Thing was real, you know, we'd be his friend, he'd be awesome. But with no context, I think most people would react the way most people in the comics react. It's like, what is that? I you know, start fearing for your life.
Absolutely. Yeah, the reaction would be, I'm afraid. Run away. You know.
Yeah.
No interaction. Run. You know.
And of course, one of everyone's favorite characters of all time, Batman.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's all, you know, they don't call him the Dark Knight for nothing.
Right.
It's all about, you know, being in alleyways and the darkness and the nighttime.
And his rogue gallery, one could argue that most of his rogues gallery are monsters.
Yes.
Like we said, the Joker, but Killer Croc, who's going to say that's not a monster?
Scarecrow.
Scarecrow.
I mean, back in the day, you know, some of the most, you know, earliest Halloween costumes in this country anyways, are, you know, the Scarecrow.
Calendar Man.
And witches and things like that. Calendar Man.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you guys while I was thinking about it here, Walking Dead, did you see the season premiere?
Yep.
What'd you think?
Starts off on a good note.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah.
And hopefully it doesn't peter out here, because I know it's going to be 8 episodes as usual, really short, and about 4 of them are going to be, is this thing going anywhere?
Right.
Like I said, the whole show, as with everything, it's like any relationship you have. It starts out just great, you just can't get enough of it.
Yeah.
And then slowly but surely it gets like, I've had enough of it.
Yeah.
It's like the first 3 or 4 episodes of every season is the honeymoon period.
Yeah.
I agree. It was a good starting point, though.
Yeah.
But it set it up to move fast, don't you think? Isn't it set up to move? Because the fist was thrown. You know, I mean, the gauntlet was dropped. It's you know.
Yeah, but see, the thing is, and stuff. Knowing, I don't read the comic book, and you guys know this.
Yeah.
But
neither do I. I mean, I've read some of them.
Everyone knows that there's the Whisperers. Everyone knows that Negan and Rick. You know, if you haven't, you should know. But you know that they have this uneasy alliance. They have to fight other people. You know, in the comic books, they almost have to team up.
Yeah.
As they always say in the Marvel team up.
Yeah.
You know, oh my goodness, they're gonna, you know, Spider-Man and Daredevil are gonna kill each other, and then by the end they're hugging and kissing because there's another person that comes in that's a bigger problem than those two.
Right.
That's just classic. And it's classic storylines.
And it's been done
with
a million
Rick,
times.
You know from the comic book that him and Negan are going to have, you know, they're going to need each other.
Sure.
If they go that way. And I can't say they're going to.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, no one's ever going to
trust That's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of it, because they might not, you know, from what we know, it looks like it's going to go that way. But, you know, Daryl doesn't exist in the comic book world. So.
My problem with the episode was that after all that had happened, when Negan is standing out on that balcony with his primary people, like his kind of senior council, why didn't they just shoot him? Like, it's like, I understand the story has to continue, so don't put Rick in a situation where he's got a fully automatic machine gun.
Well,
he's
also,
hidden, and the guy's right there. Boom, it's over.
Yeah.
10 people just start firing away, and they all walk away.
Yeah.
All of Negan's guys. They didn't show any of them being killed or anything.
Yeah. But I mean, when they're all standing there, if we're all sitting right there and he's like butchered your friends and threatened your family's
You
lives.
open up.
Boom. Like, why do you got to get the words
You
in?
just open up.
And I get it. It's like, it's a TV show. You got to look past that. But don't put Rick in a spot where you leave the audience. Don't put any of the characters in a spot where you leave the audience saying, why didn't he do that? Like, when they're, I think that's when the show's at its worst, is when the characters are acting against their own best interests. When
He said, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to
Yeah.
kill him.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the one to kill him. I'm going to kill you. I told you once. And he goes 1, 2, and starts firing. And he doesn't hit anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it just the way, and the fact that Negan comes out all just strutting around, knowing they're all behind, behind there with automatic weapons. I mean, he can see it. They show that. I'm just kind of like, okay.
Well, that's where the it's not jumping the shark, but that's where this show is going to fall. And I've noticed that the past couple seasons it's going to start falling into the formula.
Yeah.
As you said, it's like look, Glenn when he was underneath the dumpster. It's like, how in the world is he going to get out of this?
Right.
There's zombies everywhere. They know he's under here. They can smell him.
Yeah.
How is he ever going to get out of this?
Yeah.
Right.
And they never show that.
Huh?
Sort of, they never really, the whole trickery to it, they never really.
Right. So, whenever people like Daryl and stuff should die in a certain circumstance and doesn't, then you start going, okay, this is becoming Hollywood.
Right.
They're starting to save these characters because of their popularity. In the first couple seasons, people were just, you're gone.
Yeah.
From Herschel and everything, it's like, you got to go. It's time. You've been on the show X amount of days. You got to go. And same with Rick. He's been on the verge of death X amount of times.
Yeah.
And you're like, how many times can he be where Negan's right there getting ready to shoot him and cut his hand off or this and do that and stuff?
Well, I can see, obviously, I can see saving Rick. I mean, there's,
But you can't keep putting him in a position where the odds of him surviving are.
If I'd have been on that crew and somehow somebody would have come back, like I'm waiting to hold the fort down, and they come back with a videotape and show Rick standing there, not shooting him, and just bantering when he could have killed him, knowing that my safety's on the line.
Yeah.
I would have killed Rick, or else I would have overthrown him, or
Right.
I'd have been bent out of shape to say the least. It's like you're sabotaging the whole situation here, and that it just goes back to the writing of the show. I don't know.
And on a more serious note, and not real life, not to intertwine real life with movies, but there are people in war heroes that have done incredible things.
Sure.
That are given, the big Medal of Honors and Congressional and Purple Hearts that have saved 30 people against 100 people.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely.
So, was it Sergeant York and all those people? So I'm not saying none of this can happen, but X amount of times this happens.
Yeah.
Right.
Someone needs to die. Rick, Negan, Daryl, someone needs to die.
To maintain the integrity and the spirit of the show.
Maggie, whatever her name is, someone needs to die.
You bring that up, it's funny because my dad was a navigator in B-17s in World War II.
Yeah.
And he flew 30 missions. And when he got back to the States, he taught flight school a little bit. He taught navigation and things like that. But he never, ever got on a commercial airliner or airplane of any type ever again in his life.
Really?
Never. And he could have flown anywhere, at either free or at a very reduced rate. He never wanted my mom, but he specifically said he would never get in an airplane again, ever. He said, "Hey," he said, I made it through all that." He's
Right.
like, I don't miss anything about being
He's
in an
borrowed
airplane.
time, huh?
I don't
Borrowed time on an airplane.
I don't miss anything about being in an airplane. I don't want to be. And he never got in an airplane.
Wow.
Never, of any kind. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
That is crazy.
What's the next question, then? We got one?
Trying to think what the other was. Well,
Because I have a question if you know.
yeah, absolutely.
Oh, please.
Okay, this I
Please,
can't believe.
please.
Maybe we have. Maybe my old timers just coming in here. Name an artist and a writer, or it could be both, the same person that you would have on a book. You want a particular 6-issue series. Who's the artist and who's the writer you put on that book?
They have to be alive, I'm assuming. Or is that any time?
No. It could be anybody.
Oh, Lee and Kirby, FF Run. Another one.
No, not like I said. Not a run. No, not something new stuff.
New stuff.
Oh, okay.
In other words, who do you think would do a good job? So who has a proven track record that?
Okay.
I mean, I'm not saying that can't be your answer.
Right. No, I know what you're saying. They're getting together to produce something brand new.
Right.
Okay.
And like I said, Stanley, obviously, his best work is 30, 40 years ago.
Sure.
And that's, of course, that's still some of the best ever. So.
I tell you what, I'm going to go with Garth Enos as the writer. He's writing a book called, right now he's doing Punisher Platoon, and it's about this.
I like Enos.
Yeah, there's this reporter who's basically interviewing these older gentlemen that turn out they were in Frank Castle's first platoon in Vietnam prior to everything happening, and they're interviewing him, trying to put together the pieces of it, and it's pretty gory and pretty violent, but it moves right along like most of Garth Enos' stuff does. It moves right along real nice. And I would probably put him with. I'd probably put him with Mark Bagley, because he's probably Mark Bagley or Eric Larson.
You think those guys would fit? I'll play devil's advocate. You think they would fit something as gritty as he's going to put out?
I think Eric Larson could. I mean, that very first 3-issue miniseries this is going down the rabbit hole, but the 3-issue miniseries for Savage Dragon that came out back in like '91.
Oh yeah.
Remember the opening of that, where that arachnid monster is in it like has all the bodies, all those kids and stuff in that thing that he goes in. I remember thinking that was real visceral and creepy looking. I think he definitely could. And Mark Bagley, I think everybody, Mark Bagley and Eric Larson are both talented enough that I wouldn't want to shortchange them. I would be interested to see what they come up with.
Yeah.
It might not be their forte up till now, but
Bag's take on Venom right now looks really good. I mean, his art's really
it might
compressed.
be,
It's come together. It's really nice.
and it might be a little too clean for what I'm saying, but I think
that's what I'm asking. Because Larson's very cartoony, and I don't know if that would.
I don't know. Some of his stuff, like, it kind of has that scattered, kind of sketchy feel to it. I don't know.
I'll tell you something. I don't know if you've ever seen it, and I know you have. That when you talk about that idea, which is a great idea. There's a one-shot Punisher that Corbin did that's out of this world. I mean, and I think he would be really cool revisiting the past of Frank Castle. But yeah, because that one shot, I remember that I read that thing at least 10 times. I was like, this is really good. He's so good with like gritty things like that. Getting your hands dirty. Yeah.
You know what? And if I could throw just a third one there with Garth Enos, I'd like to see what he does with Sam Keith. I think that could be.
I'd like to see Sam Keith do anything.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would like Sam Keith to have someone else write for him.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Because some of the stuff I'm not even sure where it's going.
Yeah. I know, but visually you just are completely drawn to it.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I am. Visually, I just go, wow, that's cool.
And like with the Max, it took so long to get it out. It was like, well, we may
Yeah.
never know where it's going.
And then it went down like some kind of psycho babble crazy land, But it was, I always still loved and appreciated art. I was a nut about Keith when he came out. I jumped on that. I jumped on that immediately.
Yeah.
I had Kamiko Primer #5 with the original Max story
Nice.
with the rabbits. I dug all the way in. But when he did that Hulk with Kelly Jones,
Yeah.
the Gray Hulk where he meets Mr. Hyde, that one shot.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, before that was right before the Simonson, the countdown. When he was poisoned. There was just that one shot. It's 268. He does the art and Kelly Jones inks it, and it is. I love his take on the Hulk. I loved it. I was like, he could have done. I said, let him do the Hulk. Of course, Dale Keown came on, which is great. But man, Shevitz, he's cool. I just like him. He's very cool.
Where in Sam Keith's career did he jump into the Marvel Comics Presents stuff? When he was doing with Wolverine and I remember the Wolverine Nightcrawler.
Yeah,
story.
He did covers and then he did the story on the inside. That would have been what, the late '80s, early '90s.
I mean, was that fairly early into his run?
Was when you had the shop probably somewhere? Wasn't it around that time?
Should have been.
Yeah, that's when I started seeing him do covers and things like that. That's when I became certainly interested in him. I mean, around that time. I'm trying to think what else he was doing.
How far was it though from like the Kamiko #5?
Oh, that time frame? Probably like 5 or 6 years, I would imagine.
Okay.
Well, that's when Grendel, that would have been, when was that?
That's
The
what, mid-80s?
Mid-80s. Yeah, so it would be the mid-80s to the early 90s. That's when that happened. He did some covers, too. He did some, I'm trying to think, what's that one? I saw you had a couple issues over there, that vampire series where he did a couple covers. I can't think what the title was. Blood of Dracula.
Okay.
Blood of Dracula on a real obscure. It was a real obscure, company, but he did covers for Blood of Dracula. That would have been in between that time frame too.
So,
And then he just he burst. He sort of he burst, and then the Max, and everybody was excited. And then as soon as that happened, he vanished. I mean, he vanished.
Yeah.
Occasionally you see him partner up with somebody on a cover or something like that. I was like, Sam, where'd you go?
Yeah,
What happened to you?
What's your team for a horror book? Or,
Scott Snyder doing the writing, and Rich Corbin doing the artwork. Arkham Asylum.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That is awesome.
Yeah, because Snyder, man, stuff that I've read, those trade paperbacks, the Court of Owls and stuff, man, unbelievable.
Solid stuff.
Yeah.
Very. Yeah, I mean, he's wordy sometimes, but it all makes sense.
Right.
Every once in a while, someone's just a step higher. You see these guys, these new cats come out, and you're like, wow, that's really good.
Yeah.
You know, he's got new ideas. You know, just to read a Batman Joker story and enjoy it after 40-some years of reading, and probably 25 times, you know,
Yeah.
they've battled to see a new angle. Snyder has a good. He's come up with some fresh ideas, and I like it.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I like someone like Corbin to do something, his wonky artwork, you know, on Arkham Asylum, so he could go crazy with a lot of those characters we've already talked about.
Yeah.
Go something dark.
Yeah.
And Snyder seems to be able to get in the psyche of these characters. And
Yeah. I loved Corbin did that one shot, that black and white one shot. Monster Maker, remember in the solo books? Batman.
solo.
Yeah, Batman Black and they did solo, but it was in around the same time. Batman Black and White.
Batman,
Yeah, he did a story with Batman called Monster Maker. It was about battling like the young street thugs becoming thugs. The battling, that whole thing. He did that really well, but I think he would do very well doing all of Batman's foes. I think he would be great for that.
With a backup story by Eric Powell. It'd be cool to see.
Yeah, you know what?
his
You
take
said
on
that,
it.
I was waiting for you to say Eric Powell because I think Eric Powell does do horror stories.
He does, but there again, he's not that he always is, but he's slightly cartoonish.
I thought that it would be cool, just when you were saying that, I'd like to see Eric Powell do a take on the 60s Batman. A Batman comic story that's from the 60s.
Yeah.
And kind of play it up a little bit, like on the satire, kind of self-aware,
Well,
make it a little more irreverent.
They'd have to let him run wild.
Right, exactly.
And it would have to be a little bit more, I don't know, adult-oriented.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but let him play to his strengths, but I think it would be entertaining.
Yeah, because if you ever read, was it Satan's Sodomy Baby? you know that he can really
You know what's funny?
get crazy.
We're talking about being down the rabbit hole. We're deep down the rabbit hole. You say Satan, sodomy, and babies, and we all instinctively start laughing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And know what it is.
Like, oh, I remember that.
And that's probably Eric trying to get away with what he can, but at the same time, a lot of it was political because the first one had like Oprah in it and other people, and he was just making social commentary.
Sure.
Because when you just hear the title, you're like, what? That can't be on a, it was bagged and everything, so it was clearly labeled. It was not for kids.
Right.
But there wasn't anything in there. I mean, you had Trump in the second one. Funny stuff. Not the way you wanted to see Donald Trump in any way, shape, or form. So kids don't go read that, but it is for adults. It's pretty funny stuff. And it is all tongue-in-cheek stuff. There's nothing.
Yeah. This
It's not porn.
I was thinking, because you guys are coming up with some great ideas. I've been so high on Spawn lately, I can't even stop thinking about it because I really like, and I love the creative team that is on it now. I like Jason Alexander, not to be confused with Seinfeld. Sean Alexander. He's really good. He's really talented. But I was thinking, I so loved the Doctor Strange run that Chris Bacall did. I think Bacall on Spawn would be really cool. And maybe Alan Moore do it. Alan Moore wrote a couple issues of Spawn. I remember back in the day when Todd was getting other creative people, interested in things, or like they were interested in it and wanted to do things. I think he did write a couple of stories in Spawn.
I asked the Comic-Con to bring Kahlo in.
Yeah, I think he'd do a great take on Spawn. I really do. I think he'd be great for it.
It really speaks to the quality of that book, for its longevity, obviously.
Yeah.
But they basically are hitting the 30th anniversary of that book, and which is crazy.
They are 21 issues away from 300.
Yeah. So there's all these things, and then to go into such a departure artistically on that book, I thought that was a really gutsy move, and it works. It couldn't be further from like the Capullo style.
Well, the thing, it was really cool. Greg sort of helped formulate the change because
Right.
it really went from more of a sort of da-da-da-da superhero-ish kind of look to like really, at times, really deep dark horror. Because I'm like, wow, Angel Medina's run on it too. Sort of, I mean, I don't know, all the artists that went through and did that. I like it's led it to where it is now.
Right.
I think